What's going on, everybody? It's Professor Zeus, and I'm back with another video for you guys. I'm testing this, I guess, new platform when it comes to streaming and reactions and things like that. But there has been a tragedy that has occurred in the area, the D.C., Maryland, Virginia area. Um, an American Airlines plane collided with a military Black Hawk helicopter last night around 9 or 10 p.m. And it has over the airplane was carrying about more than 60 individuals, and the helicopter, I think, was more than three. But the collision occurred, and it's looking like there's no survivors. So I just wanted to react to this, the news, and provide you guys with the news if you guys didn't know what was going on, and like we can have a dialogue about that. Just give me one moment while I pull this up.
We do have this developing story that we do have to bring you this morning, and we say it with great sympathy because there is a great tragedy that took place in the skies just outside of Washington, D.C. last night. A military helicopter colliding with an American Airlines jet near Reagan National Airport this morning. The search and rescue operations continue in the icy Potomac River, where both aircrafts plunged after that crash. So far, no survivors have been located. At least 67 people on boards of both those aircrafts collectively. Some members of the U.S. figure skating team believed to be among the victims, and we are all praying for a miracle at this point. Eamon is at the scene on the Potomac River. Eamon, walk us through what happened and where things stand right now.
Andrew, the first emergency call was 8:48 p.m. last night. Investigators were on the scene, search and rescue on the scene 10 minutes after that. We're now getting daylight here just on the scene, getting our first live look in the daylight of the crash scene. And I can tell you that Park Police helicopters are now circling overhead. They seem to be orbiting that site on the far side of the Potomac River across from where we are standing in Alexandria, Virginia. That'll be the D.C. side of the river where search and rescue efforts are focused right now. Tragedy deepening this morning as our NBC affiliate here in Washington, D.C. is reporting multiple sources to them saying that officials have recovered more than 30 bodies from the site of the wreckage here. So the death toll here.
More than 30 bodies. That is extremely sad and extremely unfortunate. Wow.
Here is tragic and expected to get worse as the hours continue, because we are now more than 9 hours after this incident and no reports of any survivors have come in so far. Andrew, I can tell you also that the conditions on this river, the river is deep today, it is flowing quickly today, and it is very cold. We know that this is the highest level the water has been at for days. The water is moving at its fastest rate since Tuesday last week. The water temperature just at 32 degrees Fahrenheit. Very, very cold. This river was iced over entirely last week, to the point where you could almost walk across the Potomac River, something we rarely see here in Washington, D.C. So that gives you a sense of the conditions that crews have been working in throughout the night as they try to hope against hope in terms of finding somebody alive in that wreckage. I can also tell you, Andrew, there is sort of an eerie silence here in this area. We are just to the south of Ronald Reagan National Airport, which is just to my right, your left here. And typically this area, every couple of minutes, is awash in sound from aircraft landing, taking off at National Airport. It is very loud here normally.
And what's even crazier is that I typically travel through Ronald Reagan Airport. And just everything about this situation is so sad, right? They've recovered bodies. They're still diving and looking in for more bodies, more wreckage and things like that. But you would think, right? We have all this, like, it's just so sad because, like, you gotta think about it. The plane was about 10 minutes from landing, and then this happens. 10 minutes from landing? We've had so many issues with aviation these last few months that you hear something like this and it just makes you really, really stop and think like, man, I thought we've made, such great strides when it comes to transportation, when it comes to flight, that something like this would seem, I wouldn't say impossible, but very, very, very unlikely. It's extremely unfortunate. It's extremely unfortunate.
Today, all we hear are those helicopters circling the area looking for any survivors, any bodies. So this is a very difficult scene. They say they expect ultimately Reagan National Airport will be closed until 11 a.m. this morning. No flights in or out until that hour. And we are expecting at the bottom of this hour, 7:30 a.m. Eastern, we are expecting an additional briefing from officials on site to give us a sense of what else they know at this point. Andrew, back over to you.
Wow. Wow. I also came across some recording from air traffic control. I think the person who was in the tower who was discussing with the individuals in the helicopter or the airplane. Let me see if I can find that real quick. 1 second.
Good Thursday morning. Thank you for being here. I'm Maria Bartiromo, and it is Thursday, January 30th. It is 8:02 on the East Coast. We've got breaking news this morning on the mid-air collision of an American Airlines commercial jet and an Army Black Hawk helicopter over D.C. last night. Officials are saying 27 bodies from the jet and 1 body from the chopper have been recovered. 28 bodies.
I'm going to find the updates right now, but this segment was recorded around 8 a.m. this morning. I'm almost guaranteed that, there was probably some new updates.
Bodies recovered as the investigation transitions to a recovery mission rather than a search and rescue mission. D.C. Fire and EMS Chief John Donnelly said he expects no survivors. 60 passengers and 4 crew members were on that passenger jet, including several members and coaches from the U.S. figure skating team. They were returning from a camp in Wichita, Kansas. 3 soldiers were said to be on board the military chopper. Terrifying audio captured the moment the crash happened last night.
Did you see that? Go around, climb, maintain 3,000. Blackjack 3, can you return to base? Blackjack 3, proceed directly to Glebe. I need you to land. I need you to land immediately. Can you go to Dallas for a few minutes? Can you go to Baltimore?
President Trump has been briefed on the situation. He said on Truth Social, this is a bad situation that looks like it should have been prevented. Joining me now on the phone is Boyd Group International President and aviation analyst Mike Boyd. Mike, thank you very much for weighing in. Your reaction?
Look, this is a problem we have with air traffic control. Mr. Duffy has to do something about this. We've messed around with air traffic control for 30 years. Now we have deaths in the Potomac because of it. So this is a wake-up call for the new administration.
So CNN new updates. What we know so far, no survivors likely. No one is believed to have survived the midair collision between an American Airlines jet plane and a U.S. Army Black Hawk helicopter. The fire chief said. President Donald Trump, who's addressing the tragedy, said there are no survivors and said the White House has strong opinions of what led to the collision. Obviously, you hear things like that, and sometimes you put on your conspiracy theory hat and say, who was on the plane and different things like that, or they're trying to take, who knows. But from what I've seen, it was a bunch of I think Olympic figure skaters, I believe, for the American team, and it was just like kids. I've seen Instagram posts of these young kids coming back, and it's just a sad situation. Every time we fly, nobody knows. You know what I mean? Nobody knows. Anytime you get on the airplane, you don't really know. And when something like this happens, you're like, wow, that could have been me. That could have been my kid. That could have been my spouse. We've got to do better, honestly.
Which means fix the FAA and fix it soon before more people die.
You are attributing this and putting the blame on air traffic control and the FAA. Why? Specifically, tell us what was wrong.
We had two flying machines run into each other over the Potomac. That is the FAA's job to avoid those things. Now,
Wow.
who knows? We have all kinds of human issues here, but the fact is we've had near miss after near miss for the past umpty-ump years. Now we've had a collision. The collision is the responsibility of the FAA and the air traffic control system. Somebody failed.
So tell me how it's possible that a Black Hawk helicopter entered the airspace or the path of a commercial airliner.
You know, they let it happen, number one. Number two, the fact is we are dependent upon humans, and humans make mistakes. There's no question about it. But the very fact we had a Black Hawk helicopter that was in the path, basically, of the approach to Washington National Airport, that is a problem. That should have never happened. This is what.
Notice he said that's a human issue, right? I have a friend who's actually a pilot for United, and he taught me something that I had no idea about. From the time that you take off to the time you land, a flight is strictly ran by AI. The pilot, the co-pilot, they are not flying the airplane. They're not flying the airplane. That's AI. The reason pilots and co-pilots are on an airplane is for if there's ever a technical issue on the flight, then they should have some individual in there for insurance policy or insurance purposes. So if something does happen on a technical level, that they can blame the pilot or the co-pilot. So keep in mind, this is the last 10 minutes of the plane landing, meaning the pilot was not really doing much. Like, it was all air traffic control. It was all AI that was controlling the plane till it got down. Helicopters, on the other hand, those are all human-based skills. You need a human to, bring the helicopter up, bring it down, move it left, right. That's all human. So it just begs the question, how can something like this happen? It's if you pay attention closely, a lot of people aren't really focused on the airplane. A lot of people are focused on the helicopter aspect because, like I said, airplanes are done remotely and it's AI. It's not powered by man, but a helicopter is. What could have caused this helicopter pilot to not see a huge airplane in the sky? Like, come on.
Why we don't have helicopters of a lot of over New York City anymore, because they ran into each other or they'd crash into a building. It's the same thing here. So there was a major failure here, and that helicopter shouldn't have been there. The airplane should have, but not the helicopter.
Well, obviously, there's a major failure somewhere, but Sean Duffy, the new transportation secretary a moment ago, was on that press conference saying that the paths were standard, that the jet coming in was following a standard plan, and the Black Hawk helicopter was on its own standard plan. The two can't make sense together if, in fact, there was this failure. So if he's saying this, they were on their standard paths, why didn't the air traffic control see it?
Because we have a bad air traffic control system that, unfortunately, his predecessors have tolerated. They've talked about it, but they've tolerated it. And the fact is, yes, if both was doing the right thing, something was wrong with the system, and that means people died because of it, which means Mr. Duffy has to turn around and say, something was really wrong here. We have to change it and change it right now. I fear he's just going to warm that seat like his predecessors did, and I hope I'm real wrong. But he never even mentioned that at his hearings. He never said anything about, the dangers in air traffic control or other things. So this is a wake-up call for the Trump administration.
What past precedents regarding air traffic control issues are you referring to?
No.
Yeah, completely unfortunate. Completely unfortunate. I believe in the coming months, we're going to see a whole bunch of lawsuits. We're going to see a whole bunch of revamping of aviation and things like that, because things like this should not occur. Not with all the technological advancements we've made in aviation, flying, travel. Something like this should not occur. I'm sending positive energy, prayers, and anything I can spiritually to all the families that were affected. This was a tragedy, and I'm so sorry that this happened, and I'm so sorry that you guys were affected by this. Like I always say, life is interesting. Again, prayers and condolences to all the families who were affected by this tragedy. And yeah, just everyone stay blessed, and just try to put your best foot forward. Life is unpredictable. You never really know. You just got to wake up and try. Professor Zeus, I'll see you guys next time. If you like what you see, please hit a like, subscribe. We're on our way to 200 subscribers, and I'll see you guys in the next one. It's you and I verse for a reason.